I'm trying to clean up. Hopefully that maybe screen become little more cleaner. Okay, so we'll begin with the prayer to Manjushri. Lamandam Gumbo Jambalayan Loin Chansa Loin Kongi London Dimien Dindra Nitra Namda Raza Jinyen Dungun Jishin Zijir Nidje Tugar Legbam Zen Konda Sibi Tsenrara Mari Mendum Dunga Jizre Rozo Kunla Puji Tarzi Yen Lion to Jay on the son, Rudra Jedro, Nimo Nilo, Leje Chadron, Dolze, Jem, Are Menze, Donga Nyugu, Jinye Chenze, Raldenam, Dene Dajin, Saju Tarze, Yenden Lizo, Jaze, Tuvigo, Chudan, Chudan. Junyen jende dalu menze jambe yonla de omara bazana 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 de omara Omara bazana de 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 Umara 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 Umara Bazana de 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 Umara Bazana Umara Bazana Din 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 Zenden Jeje Chenra Wizard Dale temo memba rozane kadan denje shunlo tobai loje pobe na wan zandu sun de zon zon je tan je jingo re dan jingo ren jan ze janda kadin zon da maje ba palo jinje jinje be je jindu dima me ba lango vera do de go zungu ba jimbe ngone chanza jinja zu chiu Shivanen sarab tamje do tuji ji so zimbranze do so kamge shazan da ye mingam ge sar zimbe non da shen zimbe sive zendrum barve dokun me gendu ze juru tuje dhamma kune shuren jitten sum ji kon jape tuam be mo garbe jabe dirin da le yin zur shon jin zolen be men dom bo zeren jave nam do ron jen jen do zenzo be jen den chom barve Pemanjonen dale zorjon gombolo duarian dewadan tome nyen cholan chujinda chujun jeno nyen baozo zalin jen chonan jen da e jon korido karin jen nyen be gulo yenden gunjong ga vishazar do nyen bi dense bebe nanjurba lonchen ranjan sha jen da e jon ridon jamba jeno jinale gombilon le bu bede jedol do jen zen jan zen ngawanjur Mibam jambi anje da e shon kongi dala riba loba dan doji tenje menga no la zo la ba za da ngurishina be Muji tenje la men da e shon namo guru jinyi pa men tenje shi za la kunja ranjun doji jimbe ten doji gala ka men da na wa Palden la me ja jen da e shon yende sanje ka na nya na ya kadin sanje ku ne la be gan sa ve la me shola so ande Azondoye lamna chela njur kondo jujur dongi jidena deje lamar jurba kanzo da tindir dambi chujin chambebe sembar deban tadan dir jeje namare adambal hay gedan dan jinge drubunda nami genam dan dua gunje danam jizambar tamje ge doso sar te gyurje Majur doa namkhada nyam besim jen thamje namdol den yittewa la namme ba yanda barzo bi sanji jin ko baram barchela chine jam go barasha de chedu thiba chimbe shonglo jazi chimbo shiwala de ni jinzebe chanju sembi choba lan juba de ni shindu sene nyam sulang war jiyo nyamdo samba chanju chodo tu jiwa dan chete sen cha so that before we begin this uh, teaching, that we need to have the right motivations. So in order to kind of like what will going to be the right motivation, and then this generating a vacant mind will make the our motivation correct. So therefore we need to generate this awakened mind, and awakened mind should raise or generate in this way without any excluding that every sentient being is equal to the its space, and having the same sense that how we want to protect and provide support and how to say help to our ones dearest. So that same sense try to have towards all the sentient beings, that normally how we have towards one's dearest person. So that same sense, kind of like a willing to support, and then they here sense the support or the help, and what we need to provide support and help is to that willing to liberate from the cyclic existence and its cause, which is the karma and afflictive emotions, and then to lead them to complete enlightenment. For this purpose, I'm going to study this Mahayana scripture, the way of Bodhisattva's life, that composed by Shantideva, and then I will going to implement it whatsoever I understood from this teaching. So with that kind of motivation, study this Mahayana scripture. And beside that, and while listening the Dharma teaching, and conduct or the manner should be also proper, which means that we can do that when we listening, kind of like a completely focus your ear in the voice of teaching, listen carefully, and then in an excellent way, means not mixing while you contemplating upon this teaching any kind of emotions or some sort of like a desire, hated and jealous and doubt and so on. Try not to ignite any of those emotions while you're listening the teachings. That is the listen excellent way, listen carefully in an excellent way, um, and also not how to say kind of like a listen, not to listen this all for the just for the one self purpose, which is already we did by generating bodhicitta anyway, and then um, kind of like try to implement all the meaning of this teaching. That's the number one. And then beside that, if one can implement more, then try to implement or the memorize those words which describing its meaning, these all meanings. So with that kind of preparation, these are the preliminary before we start teachings, any kind of teachings actually. So with that kind of preparation, listen this teaching, and then this actual teaching, way of Bodhisattva's life, which contains the 10th chapter with the 4 theme. So 7 of them we complete. At the moment we are studying the chapter 8, which is the meditative concentrations, how to develop the meditative concentrations within oneself. Um, and then among the theme, there's a 4th theme in this scripture. So first two theme which already studied. We are at the moment studying the 3rd theme, which is how to improve or develop further our Mahayana spiritual training. Either we call Mahayana spiritual training or the Bodhicatta, how to develop until what stage that we should develop our Bodhicatta. So that's the 3rd theme, which is now we are studying here. So the how to develop our Bodhicatta and ultimately until what stage. And then to develop our Bodhicatta, then it require these 3 conditions mainly. Basically these 3 conditions, which is the first one is diligence, and then the second one is meditative concentration, and third one is conviction or the wisdom. These are the 3 things is required in order to develop or improve our Bodhicatta. Without diligence, without meditative concentrations, and without conviction or the wisdom, and there's no way that we can develop our Bodhicatta. So this 3 is needed. And then how to develop diligence, which we already studied in chapter 7. So now here that introducing Shantideva, teaching us that how to develop the meditative concentrations. And to do that, this is chapter 8. That's the main subject of the chapter 8. And then in order to develop the meditative concentrations, and then Shantideva beginning with the why the meditative concentration is necessary, and then how to develop the meditative concentrations. So the how to develop the meditative concentrations, when Shantideva introducing it, then first he start introducing with its contraries. So what are there that contrary for the meditative concentrations, that which prevent us to develop, actually in short, which prevent us to develop the meditative concentrations, which is in short the mundane, worldly concern, that mundane concern. And then that mundane concern that Shantideva in this chapter, including point in the main 3 points. So the first is the kind of like a being surrounded oneself, like family members, relative, friends, and so on. And then the second one is the kind of like a material gains and reputations and fame and so on. And then the third one is the especially the partner, the craving for kind of like relations, and then partner, that either we call like a gender attachment is the biggest obstacle or the contrary to develop our meditative concentrations. So in short, these are the 3 objects can really disturb or can really prevent within oneself to develop the meditative concentrations. So here mainly, what does it talking about? That one must kind of like lay it low and eventually eradicate the craving, attachment, clinging, and desire and lust. These emotions, okay? So mainly it's all talking about these emotions must kind of like lay it low and eradicate in order to developed meditative concentration within oneself. Without laying low those, without eradicating these, it is impossible for us to gain or achieve the meditative concentration, accomplish the meditative concentrations. So with that Shantideva introduced so far until this stanza 88, contrary of the for the meditative concentrations. And then after introducing all its contraries, that after understanding or the recognizing all this its contrary, then we should this all also this kind of like in order to lay it low and eradicate the attachment towards these three objects, and to reduce our clinging and the desire and lust. And these are also one must meditate through meditation, like an analytical meditation that Shantideva so far provided so many different rational reasons that why it is better for us to lay it low and eradicate this emotion. And we need to contemplate upon those rational reasons and then meditate, analytical meditations. And with that, we can lay it low and eradicate our the kind of like attachment emotion, in particular desire emotion and craving emotions, or some sort of like those emotions, which is exactly Shantideva introducing that in a chapter, this same chapter, and this fourth stanza, isn't it? Fourth stanza. Is it fourth stanza? Make sure. Let me make sure that. Yeah. So it is fourth stanza that that how one can accomplish this meditative concentration by kind of like that fourth chapter, it is saying, penetrative insight joined with a calm abiding utterly eradicates afflicted states. Knowing this, first search for calm abiding, found by people who are happy to be free from worldly ties. That's what it means. So the worldly ties. So here they translate worldly ties, worldly concerns, or mundane concerns, or mundane seek, right? Seeking, mundane seeking. So whatsoever we call here, the worldly ties. So that's what it means, okay, in short. So mainly here, even though we are living with the family members, even though we are living in this kind of society where kind of like the outwardly reputation looks like needed for survival, and like a fame, and then also like the what do you call support from family members, and then the partners. Yes, most of us have partners, right? So but still, so it is worth to reduce its craving, attachment, okay? So that is not really necessary to have a good family, okay? To have a good family, but we have this big great assumption that in order to have a healthy family members, we must kind of like have a attach each other. We must have a desire each other in order to support properly, which is actually not really truth, not really fact. Without attachment, without clinging, we still can support. And example, like just I'm giving example on the street, one poor beggar. So when just by seeing his own struggle, we can kind of like we can stimulate our generous sense of generosity. So we don't really need this attachment, actually, the fact. Just to understand the really necessary needs, then to try to provide, that will going to be the genuine support, genuine help. Unnecessary support and kind of like a help, trying to fulfilling many different unnecessary wishes for even for the family members are not really worth, rather than just binding us more firmly in this suffering of cyclic existence. So therefore it is in short, it is not really that what we have assumption that we, in order to provide support and help, we must have some sense of attachment, clinging, desire. Without that, I won't be able to provide support and help. That's simply actually not truth. Without those, still we can support by just understanding the others necessary needed. And that sense also can how to say generates the willing to support and help as well. So not only through support and help comes through the attachment and desire. So on the other hand, the supporting and help comes from the attachment and desire and clinging and crave. It's very it those support is very mean, actually. You see, when someone helping me with this, how to say, that helping action is driven by emotions, attachment, that means the other person helping me with the means, and that other person is seeking something back from me sooner or later. And sometimes we may becomes like out of control, and we may also say from our verbal too, I did this for you, you should do this to me. That's, you see, that is because of that. When we provide the help and support to someone out of attachment, out of desire, out of craving, then that support becomes the means, you see. Even, you see, so from whatever angle we look, that actually what we assuming in order to provide the help and support to someone, one must have attachment and desire and clinging or craving towards that particular object or particular person, which is the very misassumption, wrong assumption. But somehow I have to be very practical here, that in this world many of us assuming this, right? For instance, for me to provide help and support to someone, I must have some sort of like a attachment towards those people. Otherwise, why I will going to waste my time? Why I will going to waste my energy? You see, normal kind of like an ordinary concept. We have this concept that I won't provide any help and support to anyone if I doesn't like that person, if I doesn't attach to that person. Okay, in short, if I doesn't like that person, if I whatsoever reason we may provide that his behave or her behave, I didn't like it, his attitude or her attitude, I didn't like it, so therefore I'm not going to help. Normally we say this, isn't it? Very common. We often use this reason to not to help someone, you see. So uh, But what I am really trying to saying is this is the assumption, okay? Also not just misassumption, or I can say like a wrong assumption, that we assuming that in order myself to help someone, first I should like that particular person. Without liking, without attachment towards that particular person, I won't be able to provide my help and support. So that is assumption, wrong assumption or misassumption. That's not really required actually for me to provide help and support to someone. But still, I just told you earlier that I have to be very practical here. Therefore, most of us, that we normally, as soon as we want to help someone, immediately we check first whether I like that person or not. We are not going to check that whether that person is desperately needed my help or not. We don't analyze that. We don't check that. The very first we check, am I like this person or not? If I don't like, I don't care. That sense, you see. I have to be practical here, right? So this is what we have. This is the kind of like a, so you see, when you providing and help support the only out of your craving or desire or attachment, that support and help without notice or without notice doesn't matter. Somehow there's a mixed mean. You have mean by doing this. You are looking somehow cautiously or uncautiously something written back. You see. Anyhow, so kind of like towards this, the being a very practical right now, all of us living in this world, that we are living with our family members, and we need some of those reputations and fames and so on in order to live in these societies. And likewise, we need also partners. Although kind of like this habit is so strong that we assuming that which are all needed, but it's still, it is always better to try to lay it low, our attachment towards all this object, towards family members. You see, it's always better. Sooner or later, everybody needs to depart or separate. That's no doubt. So why we don't prepare from now to, how to say, separate? Prepared to separate does not mean that kind of like the how to say, like, meaning. Okay, so opposite, I will tell it in another way. Meaning of preparing to be separate is when the uncertain situation occurs, accept it, letting it go, let it be. That's what I mean, prepared to be separate. Prepared to be separate does not mean that now you start arguing with that person and now you start kind of like making some uncomfortable with those people who you want to prepare, who you want to be prepared to separate. These are not, I'm not saying that, okay? Be prepared to separate. Prepared to separate means that when this uncertainty situation occurs to oneself, and then prepared to digest, prepared to accept, and let it go. If it is beyond our control, beyond our own capability, we must let it go. Family members, and reputation, fames, and so on, all the wealth, including wealth, money, properties, and then also the uh, maybe the our partners. Yeah, sooner or later we need to depart. We need to separate. There's no doubt. No one, no one example that we have in this world that such and such this partner remain forever. Forever is forget it, even no more than 50 years, right? 50 years living together. Oh, everybody feels so amazed. Oh, wonderful partner. They managed to stay together more than 50 years. Wow. Celebrate, right? Yeah, like that. Anyway, so the bottom line, what I am saying, whether we have partner or not, whether we have family members or not, whether we have wealth, reputation, and fame or not, doesn't matter. But what one must always to prepare to being a healthy is detaching with any of these things, not hold so strong. It is always healthier for now and for the future, for oneself and for the others too. It is always that. So, in short, keep that in mind, and, or I can say, convince oneself by repeating thinking this way, or brainwash oneself by thinking in this way. Brainwash oneself that remember, remind time to time that regardless my family members and my money, property, wealth, reputation, fame, and so on, all those, and then as well as my dearest partner, that I must lay it low my attached towards all this object. I must lay it low all this my craving and clinging and attachment. And eventually I will definitely going to eradicate. So eradicating and laying low doesn't mix, it does not mean here, okay? So as I already said this, it does not mean that you should hate your partners. It does not mean that you should hate your family members. It does not mean that you should neglect your money and property and fame and reputation. It does not mean that. If it is comes, comes. Okay, take it. If it is goes, goes. Let it go. That's what I mean to say. That's how we should, this Shantideva, mainly Shantideva here, messaging to us that make it oneself able to implement in this way. For this purpose, and what we need to do is this craving emotion must lay it low. Without laying low this craving and attachment, lust, then won't be able to success in this training. So this is always kind of like a beneficials that we can sense. Whoever have a sensible, this is not something very difficult to understand. But on the other hand, we also needs to be very honest and practical. On the other hand, we also have this pattern, habit of clinging and attaching towards all these three objects too tightly. Now, after understanding all this, and we should try to lose this tight first, and then gradually try to release, and then completely get rid of. That's what kind of like all of us that should try, regardless who you are. Okay, regardless that whether oneself is like a male, female, Westerner, Asian, African, doesn't matter actually. So that's all needs to be prepared. It is always better to prepare in this way. Anyhow, so in short, now what it is saying is that Shwat Shandadeva introduced it is the contrary, which is prevent us to develop our meditative concentrations. And then after avoiding all this contrary, which disturbs us to develop our meditative concentration, then kind of like try to turn into meditation. So here now, according to this chapter 8, the training meditations meditation can be trained in a various way. To train a meditation, there are so many different ways to train meditations. But here, Shandadeva, what he is introducing to meditation and the kind of meditative concentration or the meditate upon this kind of like a equalness of self and others and the exchanging self and others. That's meditation now. Shandadeva now putting these two as an object to train our meditation. He's using these two objects to choose to focus and focus our meditation upon. Why Shantideva recommending this as the object here in this chapter 8? It is because that here we are trying to develop our bodhicitta, right? Develop our bodhicitta. So in order to develop the bodhicitta, we must train these two first. Without training these two and having genuine bodhicitta within oneself, it's something very impossible. So therefore, we need to meditate upon this two and make it familiar with this two. That's equalness of self and others and the changing self and others, right? Changing self and others. On the other hand, English word, I think we used to say like, put yourself in others' shoe, right? Put yourself in others' shoe. So that's training. That's normally we also talk in our normal conversations. And this is exactly Shantideva simply asking, choose these to two objects to develop your meditation. So meditate upon these two, right? So it's begin with this stanza 89 and 90. Last time we stopped in stanza 90, right? So this stanza 89 is kind of like until this 88, after introducing all its contrary for developed our meditative concentrations, and then after understanding all this complete, then reflecting in such a way as this upon the excellence of solitude, pacify completely all discursiveness and cultivate the mind of bodhicitta, right? And cultivate the mind of bodhicitta. So these are the order, actually, we should not forget. That we all understand that we should cultivate bodhicitta. Everybody wants to cultivate bodhicitta. But without following the order, then it is difficult for us to really kind of like genuinely cultivate the mind of bodhicitta. And because maybe we are lacking prepared all those above, that what Shantideva said, reflecting in such a way as this upon the excellence of solitude. See, this we need it. And pacify completely all discursiveness. You see now, without kind of like a pacifying discursiveness and cultivating bodhicitta is very challenge, right? So one moment maybe we can cultivate, but to maintain that for long, it's this discursiveness thought will going to be interfere, or will going to be kind of like a corrupt the mind of bodhicitta. So therefore, these are the order. So kind of like the reflecting in such a ways as this upon the excellence of solitude. So make it oneself kind of like a being happy in a solitude, and pacify the completely all discursiveness. Then cultivate the mind of bodhicitta. Here, Shandadeva introducing what to prepare first and next and then next, all the steps, order. But normally we want to jump. We want to jump direct into the cultivating bodhicitta. Oh, cultivating bodhicitta, oh yes, I want. But pacify the completely all discouragement. Oh, this is a little bit challenge. And then reflecting in such a way as this upon excellent solitude. Oh, this is so boring, right? You see, I think this is another kind of like a human pattern, human habit, that want to have that fruition, but doesn't want to work for it. We human have this sick disease, or kind of like a whatsoever we call like disease or ill or sick, always want to have that fruition. And then when people describing, oh, you like this? And yes. Okay, if you like this, you need to do this. And then immediately goes face like this. No, I don't want to do this. See, that's another pattern of us, generally human, particularly I think nowadays, this modern, everything developing technology, make everything very easy, right? Everything becomes so instant and easy that kind of like exploited us, or that makes us kind of like not willing to take hardship, not doesn't want to do hard work, impatient. Yes, impatient. When it talks about the fruit, oh yes, such a wonderful to have it. Okay, then you must do this. Then immediately go, oh, do I? Is it necessary? These questions raise. Is this very necessary to do? Is there any way that I can get this fruition without this? Immediately, lots of question. You see, this is our problem. This is our problem. So one must solve this. In order to solve this, how we can solve this? By reflecting in this stanza 89. Memory this, implement this stanza. Fruition here, what? They accomplish the meditative concentration. Yes. Everybody wants, right? Everybody wants peace. So peace could bring out from meditative concentration. That's everybody knows, right? Now, to have a meditative concentration, then here we need to reflect on this stanza. So implement this stanza. You can memorize this, reflecting in such ways as this upon the excellence of solitude. Do we really sense the excellence of solitude? Question oneself. Do I really feel the excellence of solitude? Do you really sense the excellence of solitude? If not, train. How? Contemplate upon all this above stanza. All this above stanza analytical meditation is to build the excellence of solitude, to have a sense of excellence of solitude. And once we have that, and then next step, pacify the completely all discursiveness. Then, here, Shantideva, and cultivate the mind of Bodhisattva. Right? And then again, to cultivate the mind of Bodhisattva, it has to come through meditation. And then how to cultivate the mind of Bodhisattva? Then goes to next stanza. Strive at first to meditate upon the sameness of yourself and others. See, in joy and sorrow of all are equal, needs to have that sense. Thus be guardian of all as of yourself. This is very brief, short. Now, from this next stanza, elaborating the meaning of this stanza. If one, this is always, I said always there is a brief and elaboration, a brief and elaboration. It is because of different faculties. Within a listener, there's a different faculties. To some individual, only this much guideline, it's enough to understand everything. And some may not enough. So for them, needs to a little bit elaborate. And when elaborate, then needs to put all rational reasons and logics and histories and all this to prove, to provide a reference that why this is something important. Yeah. So, so in order to cultivate the genuine mind of Bodhisattva, and we need this, we need to make habit, or we can say like we have to make it this as a pattern for oneself by always contemplating upon sameness and exchanging oneself and others first. Without those training, genuine Bodhisattva cultivating is impossible. So, and also, yeah, here again, to cultivate the mind of Bodhisattva, there are many different skills, many different methods to cultivate the mind of Bodhisattvas too, okay? Different kind of like a tradition or a different master has a different ways, different skills. The Shantideva skill is this one. The sameness and exchanging self and others. Having the sense of equalness of ones and others, and the changing oneself and others. This two training is very suitable for any being, whoever sensible. No need any religious background. As long as that is human, as long as that person is sensible, this very makes sense. It is based on your own experience, right? It is based on checking, analyzing, based on oneself, one's own experience. and then to think about others. That's very common sense. Where some other tradition, some other great masters, those skills, even to understand those skills to cultivate bodhisattva, you need to have some background, religious background, or some sort of like a, at least you need to learn so many things ahead of it. Such as like, for instance, there's another one method is to kind of like the understanding, having that sense that every sentient being has one or another became one's mother. You see now, really, in order to have that really sense, we need to study how everyone becomes one or another my mother. How? You see now, those background is required. But here, according to this method, the Shandideva skills to cultivate the mind of Bodhisattva, no need those background. It can be applied to anyone who is sensible, who have intelligence, right? We must say intelligent. I don't know how it works to those who are foolish or the dumb, right? Or unintelligent. But it is also looks very possible because this is all using that how am I going to feel if this occurred to me? Then same this idea you can apply to others. See, may works even to the foolish, may works even to the dumb, right? For instance, that when you punishing someone, and then here I'm providing two different reference. One way to stop me to punishing someone is by somebody telling, oh, you should not punish this person because this person have been your mother. Is it really going to prevent me to punish this? Right? Immediately. And then now on the other method, saying, oh, you should not punish this person because if that same punish sentence, if you get it, how you will going to take it? Then I may consider, oh, maybe that's reasonable. That's truth, right? This is actually this kind of like a sameness, sense of sameness, oneself and others. Not only for the cultivating mind of Bodhisattva, but also needed in our day-to-day life to have a healthy life, to have a healthy mind, to have a healthy, harmonious family members within families, relatives. This is some sort kind of like having a sense of sameness. It's even for the mundane, this is very helpful. That's so much needed. You see, in this world right now, how many troubles we have. We can say one way it is all created because of lacking of that sense of sameness of self and others. Right? everywhere in the country, because we lack carrying that sense of sameness of oneself and others. Therefore, we don't care about others' feeling. We only care about our feeling. But actually, since we are being a human who have this naturally intelligent, not like a other being, we are human who have this intelligent, can really sense, just spend 1 minute to analyze. You can understand this immediately. This is very easy to understand. But still, we neglecting spend one time to reflecting on it. 1 minute to reflecting on it. Happening a lot around the whole world, right? There could be many different reasons why we're having all these difficulties at the moment. But one, I can say, one biggest reason is because of we lacking carrying that sense of sameness. You see, even world survive properly, healthy survive. Even world to have a harmony, we needed this. We are not talking from the spiritual training. Even mundane point of view, we needed this. Within partner, we needed this. Within family member, we needed this. Within society, within community, within country, within world, we need this to live harmoniously, to live trustworthy, to live happy world. And then to cultivate the mind of Bodhisattva goes without saying. This is must needed. This is even needed who want to survive in this world. In a happy way, okay, I should say this. If you don't want to survive in a happy way, then maybe no need it. If you don't want to live successful, meaningful life, then maybe no need it. If anyone wants to have a successful life, meaningful life, happy life, pleasant life, pleasure life, this sense of sameness, not only for the Mahayana trainer, not only for the Mahayana spiritual practitioner. The fact, actually, this really method which Shantideva using to cultivate mind of Bodhisattva is actually even needed to survive in this world. Very much needed, not just needed, necessary. So, now if it is really necessary, then in order to carry that sense continuously within oneself and within everyone, then these instructions are very much helpful to continues to carry that sense, reflecting upon these instructions. Reflecting upon these instructions will help us to carry that sense of sameness always. So therefore, we need to reflect this. And then, particularly persons who wants to practice Mahayana spiritual path, oh, then goes without saying, this sense is very, very much needed now. How, I don't know how to say now. I already said it, necessary and very much needed, even to live in the world. Now to those, plus additional to those who want to practice Mahayana spiritual path, then it goes without saying now. I think I only left that word. Is it? It's even needed, with goes without saying. More needed, yeah. It's even more needed. Goes without saying. And then now from here, elaborating how to kind of like have that sense of sameness, right? How to implement the equalness of self and others. Elaborating from here. Then it begins with the Shantideva saying, Lakpa lasuk ewa nam mang yang, yongsu sungji lusu chikpa tar, deshin rowa tadik deduk da, tamje dakshin dewa donyam chiks. So the hand and other limbs are many and distinct, but all are one, the body to be kept and guarded. Yeah? This is the meaning. For example, from here, this example. Likewise, Likewise, the different beings in their joy and sorrow are like me, all one in wanting happiness. So, from that perspective, from that point of view, every sentient being is equal. Sameness. So now think that actually what it is saying like this: hand and the other limbs are many and distinct, but all are one, the body to be kept and guarded. What Shantideva actually saying is this, the sense of body, oneness, the body to be kept and guarded. It is something we built it by constantly and continuously and familiarizing thinking of oneness. It is not oneness from the beginning. That's what he means here. You see, the hands and other limbs are many and distinct. Why he want to say this? He want to say this because actually it is not one. But we constantly, continuously think that this is all one. My body, my body, my body. Oh, even children, that baby who doesn't know how to speak, even have this sense. You see, since then, baby who is unable to speak out, unable to talk, since then we're building this habit of oneness, right? So after a very long time building this habit, the pattern of thinking of oneness, all these different limbs and distincts, right? Hands and other limbs are many and distinct. Actually, although it is many and although it is distinct, the fact originally, in reality. But we build this pattern and habit by, how to say, habit of considering all of this in oneness, my body. We built this habit. And after built this habit strongly, then eventually we are able to perceive as oneness now. Now we don't have to put effort to consider all of this as one. It automatically comes because of the habit, because of the patterns. Right? Likewise, what Shantideva was saying, likewise, although there's a different beings, and in their joy and sorrows are also many different various. If we constantly, continuously building this habit as try to perceive all in oneness, likewise the all beings, in generally all those six realms of six different beings, and then particularly the different races, right? Different races within human being: black, white, brown, red. There's all different beings. If we same continuously build this habit and pattern by having the sense of oneness, this will going to be also kind of like a, we can make it that as our habit as well. That's what Shantideva was saying here, this is stanza. So this is all whether we want to do it or not. If we want to make it this as a pattern, habit, we can make it. Just like how we made it already, the pattern or the habit of considering this all different hands, limbs, although in reality these are so many different things combined, but we sense this is one body. Likewise, all these different races, black, white, brown, red, I don't know. And then even more widely, those all six different realms. If we constantly think as a oneness of being, then we can also build that habit as how we built a habit to consider this oneness of body. Likewise, we can also build that habit. That's the main message of this stanza. Possibility. And then on the other hand, yes, it is saying like wanting happiness. From that point of view, we are all equal. We are all equal of wanting happiness. From that perspective, black, brown, red, white are same, equal. Even though you have a different color, but the wish is same. Although you live in a different country, different planet, different universe, but sameness of wanting. That's also true, right? So here, this stanza mainly providing the one method how to familiarize with the sameness. this within this one stanza showing this one method, right? This method is how we build the sameness in our body. Although in reality all of these are different, but we have this sense of sameness, one body, by building a habit. Likewise, we can build a habit to every sentient beings, considering as a sameness. And once we familiarize that, and then this sameness can comes automatically. Just how it comes automatically to our body, without distinguishing hand, without distinguishing leg, stomach, and then inside organs, limbs, and everything, right? How we are not distinguishing. Likewise, and once we build that habit, we will not going to longer to distinguish between races and different beings. That is also possible. That's how we should train to have a sense of sameness. And then the second method is kalte ndaki dungal ji shenji lula minepa tetang detak dungal de dadu shembe mizunyi deshin shenji dungal da dala pabar mejuryan tetang detak dungal de dadu shembe söbarkas. And then now second Shantideva introducing that we should contemplate, we should think in this way in order to generate the sense of sameness as self and others. We may use this method that it's saying this pain of mine does not afflict or cause discomfort to others' body. That's true, right? It's very easy to understand. Here, listen carefully. He wanna trick that, okay? Listen carefully. He's tricking by saying this very easy sense, okay? Listen carefully. And yet, this pain is hard for me to bear because I cling and take it for my own, right? Likewise, if so, then and others being's pain, I do not feel, and yet, because I take them for myself, their suffering is mine and therefore hard to bear. Do you understand what he is trying to say through these two stanzas? The next method, how to generate the sense of sameness to self and others. Did you get it? You need to combine these two stanzas, otherwise you won't get this meaning. Let me read again. Listen carefully. This is so interesting. Interesting, kind of like a logic with the rational, with the fact. It's a reality. This pain of mine does not afflict or cause discomfort to others' body, and yet this pain is hard for me to bear, because all reason here, it is very hard for me to bear, because I cling and take it for my own. See, this is the reason, right? Yeah, this is very obvious. Everybody, oh yes, because I cling and take it for my own. That's why it becomes hard for me to bear, although it doesn't disturb anybody else. Likewise, you see, if we cling, if we kind of like attach or if we hold something, then it makes it's our own. That's what it means. It makes it's our own, right? Likewise, and others being pain. Yes, other being pain, difficulties, right? Pain. I do not feel, right? I do not feel the others being's pain, other being's pain. And yet, because I take them for myself, you see, that's what it means now. You should, Shanti was saying, if you take it, that could becomes yours. That is really possible. If you take it, that could becomes yours. Their suffering is mine. If I take them for myself, then their suffering becomes mine. And therefore, hard to bear. Simple. But this is something not completely new. We human being doing it in our day-to-day life. Even within an ordinary being, mother to the son or daughter. Okay, mother to her own child, in short. Why children's pain becomes her pain? Right? It's easy to understand, huh? Why the baby's pain becomes mother's? Because simple, mother took it. Mother took it, that baby's pain, right? That's why that pain belongs to mothers as well. Likewise, not only mother example, but also all of us. This example is so interesting. And here, listen carefully here. They use the example selling something. Okay, I may use like selling your, I don't know what to use, cell phone, laptop, bags. I don't know what to use. There are so many things that I can use. We may need to choose the one which we hold so much. That gives us better sense. So now this is individual, right? I don't know what to use now. What is my dearest thing? I have to find first what is my dearest thing. Then I can use that as an example. What is my dearest thing now? What is my most important thing? Okay, maybe this cup. No, it doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. Okay. Okay, use this laptop. Anyway, in front of me, this laptop. Okay, this laptop. When I try to sell this laptop to someone, okay, when I try to sell this laptop to someone, before I sold out, before I get money from the other person, till that I will very careful to protect this laptop, isn't it? Why? Because I took it as a mine. And then now immediately, you see, this is so immediate. Once I give this laptop to someone and once I get the money on my hand, after that 1 minute, even laptop break, fall down and break, I don't care. You see, I'll just turn my face and walk away. Why? What's the difference between this 1 minute? Look, it is just instant we change possessing this laptop, right? You see, that's how. If you take it, it can become yours. If you let it be, it can goes. Interesting, this example, isn't it? You see how normally we have this. We're doing this in our day-to-day life. Mothers to the baby, sellers to the object, to the things, right? As soon as this seller sold out this laptop, then right this 1 minute after, I don't have any sense of responsible or worry, no matter whatever happens with this laptop. But just 1 minute before, I have so worry and concerned, isn't it? Within it changed. It is all because whether I took this laptop as mine or not. From the point of view of laptop itself is same. In my hand, laptop, in his hand is a still laptop. But it changed because of the sense of belonging, right? Sense of taking as mine or not. So that's what Shantideva was saying. Because I take them for myself, therefore suffering is mine and therefore hard to bear. If you take it, there's a very possibility that it can become sameness. If you do not take it, yes, then it never becomes sameness. If you take it, instantly it can become sameness. So therefore, do you remember, do you recall this? Chapter 6, stanza 14. Yeah, okay, reflect back to the chapter 6, stanza 14. Where is it? Yeah, so read that now. There's a nothing that does not grow light through habit and familiarity. You see, now this is what, with this reason, Shantideva telling all this. There is nothing that does not grow light through habit and familiarity. So, nothing including others too. Other is also including in nothingness, nothing, right? If you constantly try to make it other and self is same, always thinks that, and there's a nothing does not grow light through habits and familiarity. You see, once we become habit and familiarity with the carrying the sense of sameness ones and others, naturally later I don't have to put any effort to have that sense. Wherever one goes, we can always feel sameness. When we feel sameness, and actually even if this is in a world, it brings tremendous joy and pleasant. and it removes all hesitations. For instance, even when you go to the very new place, very kind of like a unknown people, among the unknown people, I may not going to feel any hesitation. I may not going to feel any uncomfortable. Place and people doesn't make any difference when I carry this sameness sense. Right? It is proving by some practitioner, yes. Even nowadays, there are some people, wherever they go, they live very happy. Whoever they along with, whoever along with, wherever they go. Why? Why they can do and we cannot do? You see, so now this is the point Shantideva wants us to say. That first stanza, obviously, everybody will say, obviously. Second stanza, is it? We may raise question, is it possible? But the first stanza, this pain of mine does not afflict or cause discomfort to others' body. And yet this pain is hard for me to bear because I cling and take it for my own. Okay, yes. Nobody has object, I think. But the second stanza, and other beings' pain I do not feel, and yet because I take them off for myself, their suffering is mine and therefore hard to bear. Is it? But when we goes to the mother's example, then maybe our mind become, oh yeah, make sense. And then even use this laptop selling sense, laptop selling logic. Oh yeah, it looks more possible, isn't it? But without reflecting on these examples, just look at this stanza and go, I don't know how much we will going to get it. But that's what Shantideva means. You see, it is all depend on how much you make a habit, how much you make familiarity. Nothing is impossible. Yeah, so that's regards to that, this Adidas advertisement. I like that word. And then Nike, combining this Adidas and Nike together, this word, it's very nice. But maybe if we use this word for the negative, that is also works. That's unfortunate. Nothing is impossible, right? Just do it. Or we can put like, just do it. Nothing is impossible. Here, Shantideva was saying, just do it. Nothing is impossible. Don't feel this kind of like being able to generate the sense of sameness is something impossible. Don't think that. Just do it. Nothing is impossible. One, it becomes your habit. One, it becomes your pattern. You see, now the pattern and habit cannot say bad or good by itself. It depends with the what you will going to be habit and what will going to be make it your pattern. It depends on that object. It depends on that object. It depends on that activity. It depends on that attitude. Behave. If the right behave, right attitude, making habit, making familiar, making pattern is good. We have to. Like this. Shantideva was saying, yeah, make it habit here. Just how you make it habit to clinging yourself. Likewise, you also make it help to clinging others as you. Yeah, so this is just Shantideva. This is really amazing. This is very possible, okay? Therefore, even Shakyamuni Buddha, he said in Sutra, in this world, if you try to tame and fix that, the easiest to tame and easiest to make them obey, make them obey, not really them, make it obey to you is the mind. If you try, this is what Shakyamuni Buddha said. I'm taking quote from what Shakyamuni Buddha said, right? He said, in this world, if you try to train and convince to make them obey, make it obey, and there's no any other easier than taming one's mind and making it obey to you. Yeah. And at the same time, he also said further, if you do not try to train, then there's no worse than kind of like no worse disobeying and no worse kind of like how to say, unable to train is the mind too. If you do not try to train, that will going to be the disobeying all the time to you. And that will going to be the most difficulties and worst things to fix it. You see, that's both beauty and ugly of the mind. Beauty of the mind is, if you try to train, it's very easy than anything else. Even easier than taming your son and daughter. I mean, I'm talking about when they are kid, okay? when they are adult, goes without saying. I'm talking when they are below 5. After 2, after 3, or after 3, and below 10, maybe 10, a little bit longer, 10, they completely believe in their parent. And they think there's no more greater person in this world than their parent. What it proves by themselves, you see. No matter whatever we feel difficult at that moment, I have this experience, my own. I even thought, you see, one time, some very big man humiliated me. Is it humiliated me? Humiliated me. Yeah, disdained me. I immediately called my mother. I said, be careful, otherwise I will call my mother. You see, at that time, I have this full of confidence, no even 1% doubt that my mother will fix this man. In reality, when I think from now, I love myself. How my man can fight with this man, this strong man, right? But you see, that's how we have faith and confidence in our parent at that moment. So I'm talking about that period, okay? That period. So this mind is even easier to convince than them. If we try to train, if I try to train, that's what Shakyamuni Buddha is saying. In this world, if you try to train, there's a no most easiest than taming mind. And if you do not train, do not try to fix it, then there will going to be no worse things to tame and fix than the mind. Two, both. This mind has a both side. One face is beauty and another face is too ugly. Huh? That's why here. In point, in short, this what Shakyamuni Buddha says also can go reference to support this what Shantideva was saying. See, this stanza 92, everybody accept. And in stanza 93, little bit think to accept. Actually the same, exactly same, isn't it? Look, exactly same. And now from here, this is the second method to how to generate the sameness of one and others. Okay, that's the different another skills or the method to how to develop that sense. And then now from here, kind of like a logically approaching, confirming by the kind of like a sameness, one and other sameness, confirmed by logical inquiry. Now they were using logic to prove that this sameness is very much possible if we build. But he's talking in a very tricky way. Direct, he talks something. Indirect, he leads something else. So you have to also pay attention. This is all very wonderful logic. Anyway, so maybe we should stop today here. And we can continue tomorrow. So the now time is over. Only 5 minutes left. So the 5 minutes. If you have question, we may can discuss for 5 minutes. If not, then close the book and dedicate the merit. If you want to ask question, you can unmute yourself. Yeah, if not, then we can dedicate. Noe zenam de tamje zibani Tomne nyebe indranam pamjene, shiga nanchi wala tubai, sibe zole ndowa ndowarsho, jambal pawe jidara kimbadam, kundu sambo deyang deshinde, teda kunji jesu ndalochi, gewan de da tamje rabdungo, gewan de yeshe ukun, Sönam yeshe tsozo ne, sönam yeshe tsozo Tamba kunyin tobar shu, sanje kusum nyebe chen lam dang, chunye minjur dumbe chen lam dang, gendun meje dumbe chen labdi, jitara ngowa me lam drubar shu. Read in English. By this beneficial activity may I obtain omniscience, and having vanquished the harmful enemies, greed, anger, delusion, may I liberate all being tossed about helplessly by the waves of birth, aging, illness, and death in the ocean of becoming. By conforming to the knowledge of courageous Manjushri, Jambalyam, and in the same way as Samindapatra, Kundusambo, and following their example, I dedicate perfectly all this virtue. By this virtue may all being perfectly achieve the accumulation of merit, Swanam, and wisdom, Yeshe, and may they thereafter obtain the two holy bodies which result from these two accumulation. By the blessing of the Buddha, Sanje, who obtained the three bodies, by the blessing of the immutable truth of the Dharmata, Chönyi, by the blessing of the infallible aspiration of the Sangha, Gendin, may this prayer of dedication be accomplished just as it is. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.